Thank you for joining us. I'm on location in Palm Beach. The President is just about to drive past where we are standing right now on his way to Mar-a-Lago. And we are on location here in Palm Beach, obviously, to attend the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. I just interviewed Rabbi Eckstein, and we will learn more about this event and the importance in today's world following these messages.
Human age reversal. We may be there already. Human studies are now ready to begin to confirm meaningful reversal of pathological aging processes. These clinical trials aim to alter older humans so that they function as much younger individuals. Even modest success will result in a paradigm shift that will impart enormous societal benefits, such as sparing Medicare from insolvency. Life extension is not standing idle while 5,000 Americans die each day from age-related illnesses. Joining us are physician scientists who want to hurry up these technologies to keep people from aging to death. While life extension is pushing these projects forward, we need financial help to ensure these studies are carried through to fruition.
Find magic again. Sprout by HP. With Intel RealSense technology inside, now you can bend the rules of creativity outside.
With us now is Rabbi Eckstein. Rabbi, it's such a privilege and honor to finally meet you.
And thank you very much, and it's a privilege and honor to be on your program.
You know, I was thinking, in the book of Proverbs, friends always show their love. What are brothers for, if not to share troubles? Proverbs 17:17, which kind of says it all about your work, your life's work in your organization.
It really does. There are so many verses in the Bible that teach of the obligation, the responsibility that we have to look out for our brothers and sisters, not just in the Jewish community, but for those who are in need. The fellowship over these 35 years has tried to do that. Build bridges of understanding and healing and cooperation between Christians and Jews who for 2,000 years were so separated, and their relationship was marked by anger, by hatred, by death, by crusades, and by all sorts of anti-Semitic measures. And today is a new day. We have successfully continued our work for 35 years doing what people said was impossible to do, which is bring together the Jewish and the evangelical Christian community, not just in America, but around the world. And so that spirit of Proverbs, of extending ourselves to others, and helping them, is something that really does mark our organization. And I might say it's a two-way street. It's not just Christians who are reaching out and supporting our work, our programs, helping elderly Holocaust survivors with food and medicine and all sorts of other projects. We have 400 projects actually in Israel and around the world. But it's also Jews helping persecuted Christians. There are so many Christians here in the Middle East who've been expelled, who've been tortured, who've been attacked and killed by various radical Islamist groups. Certainly the best is known as ISIS, and we're helping them. We're helping hundreds of Christian families who fled from Iraq and Syria and are now in Jordan. We're helping the Copts, Christians in Egypt. So it's really extending, as you so well put it from Proverbs, it's extending ourselves on behalf of the other.
Rabbi, I was thinking about how horribly frustrating it must be for you all of these years to witness the things you see, and the world media seems to downplay and belittle and not properly report the atrocities perpetrated against Christians in Egypt, in the Middle East in general, and other people, and of course Jews, Hindus, and so forth.
That's the question that everyone who tries to do good in the world asks. Why is it that the media is not interested in good things and only in bad things and bad events? Firstly, it's a generalization. Some media today do focus, not enough, but they focus on good deeds, on good things, on good people. But for the most part, you're right, it doesn't make news. If I think back to my 42-year career, for 7 years I was with the Anti-Defamation League, heading Christian-Jewish relations, and I started some of the earliest evangelical Jewish dialogues then. And then over the past 35 years since I've been with the fellowship, since I founded that, the media had to be divided into different quadrants, if you will. One was the general media, the secular media, and you're right, the secular media pretty much was not interested in our bridge building work, and there was no realization then of persecuted Christians, and the media tended to be liberal. And I was working with primarily conservative people, Christians, not necessarily conservative politically, but conservative on the spiritual, religious side. So over those earlier years, working with people like Jerry Falwell and the Moral Majority and Ralph Reed and Pat Robertson, that was controversial. And then when I started some of the dialogues, it was a man-bite-dog story. Orthodox rabbi working with Jerry Falwell and bringing Falwell to his synagogue to speak, etc., and the attacks against me and the reactions by the Jewish community. So you had the Jewish press, you had the Christian press, and you had the secular press. The fact of the matter is that then, I wouldn't say now because I really don't follow it quite the same way, but much of the Jewish press was very opposed to what I was doing, and they were reflective of the establishment Jewish community that was in general opposed to what I was doing.
Absolutely ridiculous though, because to be realistic in this world today when there are severe and serious threats against civilization the way we know it, it makes absolute sense for people to recognize the bond, the friendship between Christians and Jews,
right,
sharing the same Holy Bible. It is preposterous for anybody to, for whatever reasons, to...
You're right, but that's now, 2018. 35 years ago, there wasn't that feeling. There was just a fear, a concern that these Christians were going to Christianize America. Their issues then were not Israel. I believe I helped shape it to be supportive of Israel, but then the issues were abortion, school prayer, homosexuality, and the Jewish community was largely on the other side of the table of where these Christian conservatives were. And they, for the most part, I mean, there were some Jews who got it already back then and who supported us, who got the idea that, hey, this is a whole group of people, of millions of people all over the world. So today, it's not controversial that the media would pick up on it. Because like you say, today it's obvious, hey, we need to build bridges for Israel. We need help for Jews who are suffering under terrorism around the world. We need help from Christians in countries where there aren't many Jews, Korea, Brazil. Look at what happened with Guatemala being the country that so far has agreed to move its embassy to Jerusalem after America announced that, President Trump announced that America would. The president of Guatemala is an evangelical Christian. In Latin America, where just 20 years ago, it was almost an entirely Catholic continent. Today, there isn't a country in Latin America that doesn't have at least 30% evangelicals and Pentecostals. Brazil, millions and millions. China has 70, 80, 90 million evangelical Christians emerging. Singapore, Philippines, all these places that don't have many Jews. And we need to rely on them for hasbara. We need to rely on them for support for Israel in the political realm, lobbying on their countries. We need to rely on them in the fight against anti-Semitism. And we need to build those bridges of understanding. So for some media, today it's a given already. It's not controversial that we should even have this gala in Palm Beach, the first time ever that hundreds and hundreds of Christians and hundreds of Jews are coming together to celebrate together the 70th anniversary of the State of Israel and the 35th anniversary of the Fellowship. That's new, that Christians and Jews would have a program together to celebrate Israel. Senator Joe Lieberman, who's a friend and was the chairman of our Washington office for a number of years, said to me a while ago, Yechiel, you've been vindicated. And so I think the vast majority of the Jewish community gets it, appreciates it, is trying to reach out on their own. All these organizations that, frankly, many of them would not take money from us in the past are now coming to our door, and we are now the largest philanthropy in Israel. We have hundreds of projects helping, whether it's orphans, whether it's widows, whether it's the military, the IDF. We provide security for Jewish synagogues and schools all over the world. We give roughly $25 to $30 million a year just in the former Soviet Union, more than the Jewish community gives, way more than the Jewish community gives to help elderly Jews in need, many, if not most, Holocaust survivors that are in Russia or Ukraine or Moldova and Uzbekistan and that are living on some fourth floor tenement, can't get out of the house and are totally dependent on us for food and for medicine and heating fuel. And I might say that the success that we've had, that God has blessed us with, where we are raising $140 million a year, but 99% from Christians. And you know, there's a Yiddish word that I grew up with. It's a shanda.
Absolutely.
It's a shanda, it's a disgrace when we have come to the point that even with all the good work that JDC does, and it does good work, all the great work that Chabad does in the former Soviet Union, and it does incredible work, we are helping 110,000 Jews each year there, every day, with food, clothing, medicine, and heating fuel. The Claims Conference is helping the JDC, but there are 60,000 elderly Jews today. Just for another 5-6 years that they'll be around, they'll be alive, living in squalor, living with this sense of disgrace, forgotten by the Jewish community. You know, I used to remember back in the 60s and 70s and even 80s, the whole Federation movement used to have, and others used to have, the phrase of Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Bazeh. We're all dependent on one another. We are one. All of those mottos may have been effective years ago. Today, it's not catching.
You use the word disgrace, and I think it really is a disgrace. And speaking of mottos such as "We are one," and naysayers who, for whatever mysterious and unjustifiable reasons, disagree and criticize you, are not in touch with the reality.
Yeah, well, as I said, thank you, first of all. And as I said, today, we may not get the kind of media coverage that you talked about for all sorts of reasons. But today it's an accepted reality. And today, I would say, certainly by the hundreds of groups that we support with our funds, we help 1.49, something like that, million people last year. In Israel, we help all the citizens of Israel. We help Muslims, we help Christians, we help Druze, we help Bedouin, we help Haredi Jews who are willing to accept our money. Some Haredi people or cities refuse even to this day to accept money from us because the majority is coming from Christians. So, for example, we help 226 cities in Israel, but there are 4 cities that refuse to accept our funds. So we feel bad, but it's not like there aren't other needs. But I still can't grasp that.
Neither can I. I think it's shocking and frankly reprehensible.
My feeling is, you know, on the one hand, if you don't want to accept money, don't accept it. For a long time, some of these religious institutions that we were funding would accept it, so to speak, under the table, but not publicize it, that this was from the Fellowship of Christians and Jews. And so we stopped doing that and announced that if you accept money from us, you have to do it above board and proudly to thank our donors. Acknowledge it, exactly. There's a Jewish concept of hakarat hatov, recognizing the good that's been done to us. Well, we have 1.6 million Christian donors giving sacrificially, giving up things to help the Jewish people. No missionary activity, of course. I'm an Orthodox rabbi, would never allow any kind of missionary activity. And yet there are those who are on the Haredi right who are concerned and who refuse. But for the most part, the Jewish community in America, certainly the entire community, citizenship of Israel, and certainly the Jews in the former Soviet Union and around the world appreciate our efforts, our programs, And I'm hoping and praying that we will continue to grow because the needs are great.
Greater than ever.
Greater than ever. And I also hope that the Jewish community, and that's what the gala tonight is really all about, it's to bring the Jewish community into this process. We're providing 5,600 bomb shelters to the people of Israel. And so many more projects. It's critical that Jews take these themes, helping the elderly, helping the children, the orphans, helping the vulnerable, single moms who are poor. We have programs for them. The situation requires us all, Christians and Jews, to do more, to step up to the plate and to fill these voids in these people's lives.
Absolutely, Rabbi. And I was just thinking again, I'm astonished by the lack of cooperation and loyalty. In fact, you mentioned Haredi. It is said that some of these rabbis don't recognize the state of Israel. And this is so preposterous, visiting Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in Iran. What is it with the Jews that they can't be more united? What is this?
Well, first of all, that segment that really meets with Ahmadinejad or others from Iran, that's the Neturei Karta. That's really the extreme right. And thankfully, they're very few. There are others who sit in the government and who participate in the government, and in that sense, de facto, recognize the government of Israel. But, you know, when Herzl started, the vast majority of the Jewish community opposed it, both from the liberal side, where it was felt, especially in Germany, they were Germans of the Mosaic persuasion, where the whole concept of Zionism was foreign, that concept of nationalism. After the Holocaust, the whole world Jewish community came around. Communities of Haredim that trusted their Rabbi, who said to stay in Europe and not to go to that Treifa Medina of America or to go to the Zionist, they died. They were all slaughtered and murdered in the Holocaust. And so the number of people, Jews today, who don't appreciate the need for Israel and who would act against her best interests is really, thankfully, very small. But where I would say you're 100% right is that we're torn politically. We're torn between the right and the left. We're torn between the right and the left in Israel. And the politics is really terrible in Israel, as bad as we think it may be in America. At least in America, our Congress people, our senators are representing us because we voted for them. In Israel, the whole system is different. It's a coalition government, and each party in the coalition can have veto power by threatening on their key issue. And the issues in this coalition, for example, just the question of whether or not Haredi people should be taken to the military, should have to go to the military.
And they should.
And they should, in my opinion, in your opinion, and in most of the people's opinion, but not in the Haredi opinion. And so they are, there's a law that they would go to jail for refusing to come to the drafting.
To serve the state, yes.
To serve the state. And so there have been violent demonstrations, but it so happens that one of those members is a key member of the coalition. But you also have a member who's a minister, Lieberman, the Minister of Defense, whose whole constituency is vehemently opposed to that Haredim, who are, let's call it draft dodgers, and who insists that they're going to leave the government if a law isn't passed that Haredim have to go. And Haredim are saying, we'll leave the government if the law is passed that we have to go to serve. And each one can threaten to bring down the government. So
Absolutely
it's very, we need more unity. And I'll tell you one thing, living now in Israel, I went on Aliyah 16, 17 years ago. It's almost 18 years now. When there's times of war, when there are times of terrorism, the people come together as one. We really do.
And people should have moral responsibility. And all of this witch hunting politically that you were referring to, again, is reprehensible. People have their priorities wrong, and there should be far more unity. And of course, you are an inspiration to millions of people.
Thank you. Thank you.
If more people in the world had the vision you have and the dedication to decent principles and goodwill, what a better world this would be.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Rabbi, a real pleasure being with you here today.
It's a
Thank you so much.
pleasure and privilege to be with you after all these years. You're doing such wonderful work, and it affects the whole country. So I pray God continues to bless you and Shalom TV for many years to come.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'll be right back.
Human age reversal. We may be there already. Human studies are now ready to begin to confirm meaningful reversal of pathological aging processes. These clinical trials aim to alter older humans so that they function as much younger individuals. Even modest success will result in a paradigm shift that will impart enormous societal benefits, such as sparing Medicare from insolvency. Life extension is not standing idle while 5,000 Americans die each day from age-related illnesses. Joining us are physician scientists who want to hurry up these technologies to keep people from aging to death. While life extension is pushing these projects forward, we need financial help to ensure these studies are carried through to fruition.
This concludes our special show for today. I'm Maya Brandt, and thank you for being with us.